Yeah, I just wrapped up with the record. I think I've got something in my eye. No, not my eye. Um, something else. Um, it's good, isn't it?
You like it? That's I'm glad to hear that coming from yourself, if I'm honest. I don't know is the honest answer.
Oh,
If
come
I'm
on, behave.
no, no, but you know, you must get this with writing. When you're that close to something, you get to that point where it doesn't make any sense, like logical sense to you anymore, and you need time away from it to kind of. I mean, I'm proud of it, whatever it is, but I don't know. I don't know what it is yet. Does that make sense?
I'm just gonna get the track listing up. So apologies if it plays. No,
Yeah, don't
it's
worry.
not playing. It's not playing. It's not playing. I've got the track listing up. Um, I was talking to someone the other day. I can't remember who I was talking to. Oh yeah, it was on an episode with. Do you know a band? Do you know a band called Candy Hearts? I don't think it would be your kind
No,
of thing.
no, no.
The singer in that band, she just made a solo record. She was on an episode of this podcast like a couple before this, and I was talking to her, and I was trying to check the track listing, and I played one of her songs, and it was really embarrassing, you know. So I've avoided that. No, well, firstly, whenever I write something that I think is good, it is good. I don't really
Yeah.
have that problem.
Okay.
I have that problem with everything else in my life. Yeah, I question everything, but with writing, I'm like, oh yeah, that was good, you know. So, but I was kind of thinking, I've got a bit of a weird relationship with your band in that when you kind of first came about, that like everyone I spoke to was so gushing about your band. It was just like, and I'm not great with that, you know. I'm almost a little bit
Mm.
like I want to get there myself. And I think I sort of resisted it, and everyone was like, "Oh no, you've got to." You know, people were like talking about you. It was almost like sort of utter devotion. And then I think I saw you at the Old Blue last, and I was quite far down the front, and I was like, "Fucking hell!" And I remember kind of getting out of the venue and just texting everyone who'd been, you know, I'm trying to think of another word than gushing, but kind of speaking about you in such kind of uh, feverish tones, you know, like people have been almost like kind of quasi religious about you. And I remember texting everyone and being like, "Yeah, I was wrong."
Oh, mate.
And but that was a long time ago, you
It,
know. And obviously the band's sort of changed a bit since then. And I knew when I rebooted this podcast, I was like, I definitely want to do a Lonely the Brave record because you know I still listen to that first record all the time. But I did kind of drop off a little bit with the last record, and
yeah.
I don't even think that's like your fault. I think that's like just how mental the world's been. That it's almost like I haven't been abreast of stuff. And
Yeah.
then I was listening to this record. I was like, this is really good. And then it gets to that song "Color Me Sad," which I think is 5 songs in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And from that point on, the record is staggering.
Oh,
Like,
mate.
I think it's not that the songs before that, you know, are anything other than good, but I was a bit like, because I guess the thing with your band is that you do emotion in such a big, raw way that, in
Mm.
a way, if I had like one criticism of you, I'd be like, "Oh, show me another color," you know, like kind of show me another trick.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I definitely feel like this record's done that, if that makes sense.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Well, thank you first and foremost. I mean, I think it's an interesting one. We there's lots of different elements going on with it. I think we're really lucky in the fact that everyone in the band writes music, and everyone pulls their weight in that respect. So you can hear distinct influences from everybody, which I think makes the difference with it. It's not like one or two people are writing, everyone else is along for the ride, and that's why it's so varied. I think for me, um, but also there was a conscious decision for us this time to. We were always keen to make sure that whatever we were recording, we could replicate live. Does that make sense? So it was always that was the primary focus that we recorded songs that we had played a million times and got to a point where it's so polished that we know that's going to work live. These last two records, and this one more even than the last one, have been done completely independent of each other. And I think that has made a real difference to it because we've kind of thrown I guess, the live thing out of the window and just thought, well, do you know what? If we want strings, we're going to put strings on it. If we want really loud synths and no one's going to play live, we'll put really loud synths on it. It's kind of been a bit unlimited in that respect, and that's been really exciting. But also the fact that when for me, when you write something, and I have an idea in my head of where I want it to go. I mean, there's songs on there that I would go and record all the guitar parts, and there's no drums. I haven't even heard any drums played to it yet. And then the next time I come up, Mo's done what Mo's done, and I'm like, oh wow, that's completely different to where I was expecting this to be going.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's been a really interesting, but that's been only because that's had to be the way. We've all got so much going on otherwise that getting us in one place together is basically impossible these days.
Why is that?
Everyone's just got so much going on. I mean, I guess like you said, COVID and all that stuff. The world changing had a massive impact on us as a band and life in general, because touring and music, couldn't be our primary source of income. We had to kind of stop and change everything really. Not that we were out all the time at that point, but that's what we do. It's our career. So Ross has got a restaurant. Ross owns a restaurant that he and his wife have been working on for ages, which is amazing. Mo's had a couple of kids in the meantime. I've got kids. I've got 2 kids. So everyone's just got a lot of stuff going on. And we live so far apart geographically now. There's kind of 2 or 3 of us in Cambridgeshire, but then Jack's Manchester, Ross is in Devon. So actually getting us in one place is basically impossible until we go on tour.
So do you think this is like is that set up how you think things will stay now, or would you like to get back to how things worked before the world went crazy?
I would love to get back to how things were before, because I think you made a really valid point like that. That the last record for me was a really fantastic thing to do, but I think we were still sussing each other out, after everything that had happened, and Jack coming on board and everything else, and doing that through a period of complete and utter chaos. It was, it got easily lost in that fog, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about that record myself. Yeah, I love it, and I'm very proud of it. But there was so much happening that it's just been enveloped in it to me. It almost in a way that I'd like to revisit it, because we didn't really get a chance to play it live properly either. The first time we played those songs live was the Download pilot in front of 10,000 people. That's the first time we played them together. That's wild. With no rehearsals.
Yeah, I've almost thought at one point that I'd like to write something. I mean, it's a little bit too soon, but I'd like to write something about like records that you might have missed because you were making banana bread. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely, yeah.
Because I've spoke to a lot of people in the podcast that when they released records during the pandemic, and they were like, well, it was kind of dead on arrival. Like everything was stacked against us,
Yeah, no, I think we were exactly the same, but I think in a perverse way, that's kind of the lonely, the brave way. If I'm being brutally honest, it feels like that happens every time we do anything. So
well, you say that though. Sorry, I'm just going to open a can. You say that though, but see me saying I'm just going to open a can. I'm saying that so I don't have to edit it out.
I like it.
Yeah, I've learned this after 200 episodes or something. No, well, I mean, you say that, and I suppose I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but that kind of swarm of hype at the beginning was quite unlike anything really for like a British band. I can't. I mean, it was sort of almost suffocating in a way. It was almost like, and this is all on me, right? This is all like my problem, not your problem. But there was this thing where I was like, I love big angsty music, right? And I was like, have we never heard a band like this before? People were so kind of,
yeah, I know what you mean.
And I was like, surely you've heard other music like this. And then I actually heard you, and I was like, oh no, they are special. Do you know what I mean? But you say you're almost like it's the lonely, the brave way to be unlucky. But actually, that was kind of a bit of a gift, or was it a gift? Was it a curse in a way?
I think that whole period is so odd for us all. because we didn't know anything different. We'd been a band for years at that point, and we are, we weren't 18 years old and living at home and, could kind of just go, oh, cool, let's go off on tour and have no responsibility. We all had things going on. And I think, in a way, I don't think we realized how special that was, or
Right.
how,
Yeah.
how much that was different. We were just kind of like, oh, cool, this is kind of that noise around us is what happens when a band kind of releases a
Yeah.
record on a
Yeah.
record label,
Yeah.
because we hadn't been at that point. I remember being described before that as like five guys who look like bricklayers. Some of those one of the gigs, like, yeah, probably because we were. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's we were, yeah. That's what we are. And then to be doing that, and then the next day, oh, cool, yeah, you're going to support Springsteen at the Olympic Park. Like, what? Doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. What's that
Yeah.
about? You
It's
know?
it's funny when this sometimes one of the great things about doing this podcast is I get to speak to a lot of people whose music I loved when I was growing up, and because not that their like kind of star has faded or anything. I think it's a rubbish way of looking at it, but because like they're quite a long way into doing what they do, or in many ways actually they're speaking to me, but the band isn't operational anymore.
Yeah.
They say a similar thing that almost like they kind of get almost like in their case, that they would get a couple of years in and then kind of things weren't quite at the level that they were, and they'd be like, oh, it's
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
it's not always like this. And I guess it must be similar if you're like sort of the hot new thing, but like you say, you weren't actually like a new thing because you had been kicking around for a time.
Oh, absolutely. And that record, we'd had that record in our back pocket for years at that point, if I'm honest. And yeah, no, we didn't know anything different, and we just uh, we weren't prepared for that. We weren't prepared for any of it, and I don't think we still are. If I'm honest. I think it's such a bizarre thing. Jack raised a really valid point. We were chatting to someone else the other day, and he said, in some respects, it's kind of really annoying that you have to have the people behind music or the people in bands. You kind of want to go, cool, there's the music, and not have to worry about all that stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was awesome and great experiences, but I don't think we ever really, we took it for granted. That's not it at all. We just didn't understand it. We didn't understand it. We didn't understand what was happening. Yeah.
How is David these days?
He's good. I saw him. I've seen him a few times over the last couple of years. I went to see him a few times actually. It must be a couple of years ago now, and he was in a really good place. Yeah, it was really really good to see him. And obviously he's got stuff that he's doing at the moment, which I'm really glad to see. Um, yeah, I'm glad for him. Yeah, we don't keep in touch as obviously as much as we used to in the band. Um, but
It
yeah, as far as I'm aware, he's doing all right.
it was so weird, like when I think about this, it's so weird how kind of far we've come. Like I'm not like a pessim like not I'm not like a negative person, right? Like I'm very optimistic about everything, but I do in lots of ways in recent years. There's a lot about the world where I've gone, oh God, are we going backwards? And then I remember things like this, and I remember there were conversations at the time with like music industry people where it was like, oh, that singer, he's so shy. He's obviously got things going on. He won't like face the crowd. And I don't want to sound like virtuous because maybe I even agreed with that. Do you know what I mean? Maybe I was even like, oh, well, that's going to be difficult if we do a cover when I was a Kerrang. That might be difficult to do the photos or whatever.
Yeah,
And then, like, I've had a wretched half decade with mental illness, and like, part of me is like, I can't believe we used to have those kind of conversations. You know what I mean? Like, but that must have been like an odd sell. Like being the band, and obviously David having his thing.
yeah. Well, yes and no, because we didn't know any different. Again, this
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
he'd always been our mate, and he's always been my mate, and that's how he was, and we accepted that. But yeah, of course, it came with problems. That as you said, that there'll be people that just wouldn't understand that or wouldn't agree with it, and that's okay if they want to take that view. But we were where we were. It's funny. I mean, like I said today, last time I saw him, I'd gone back through some old emails looking for something on some old email account, and I found some of our conversations around like when we were playing, main stage at Reading and stuff, and him not wanting to do it, and then reading the responses, which weren't horrible, but trying to convince him to do these shows. I said to him, like, man, it's so bad, at the time that it was because we were so focused on doing it instead of being focused on actually this isn't very good for you. Or actually for any of us up to a point, because it got really horrible for quite a few of us. It was just all about doing it because that's what we needed to do. And I get that and I appreciate that. I think anyone who's been offered this opportunity, you can't not do those things, and that's kind of where we all work. You've got to fucking do this, man. Yeah, we can't not.
Yeah.
But actually, morally, is that the right thing to have done? I said that to him. I was like, man, looking for those emails and read some of the stuff. It's such a bonkers time to look back on now,
it was weird, like I've been. Well, firstly, I'm not really sure it would be the same now. Do you know what I mean? I think that it was almost like at that juncture, and it wasn't that long ago, really. It was almost at that juncture. It was almost like maybe not from you, but almost kind of from like the industry people that were around you. It was almost like they were slightly apologetic. Do you know what I mean? Almost like, oh, they don't really operate like other bands because the singer's got some stuff. I mean, I just don't think that would happen now. It would be like the singer's got some stuff, so you're gonna have to accommodate. You're gonna have to deal with it. You know what I mean? It's like this is how
absolutely.
it is. But it is weird. Like, I've had loads of. I've really kind of gone through my history with like mental illness and OCD, which I didn't know for a long time. That's what my problems were, but I've kind of gone through thinking about it a lot. And I was talking to my mum about it, and like, because she's just been like amazingly supportive, even as like an adult man, like she was always the sort of one that was, driving me on. And she said to me a lot, like, I sort of always wanted to just keep you going. You know what I mean? I didn't want you to like pack in your job at NME or pack in your job at Kerrang, whatever. And actually, kind of with hindsight, there's part of me that's like, and I appreciate that about her. She's a wonderful woman, but there is part of me that's like, yeah, but I don't know whether it was good for me. I actually wonder whether if I'd sort of taken some time out and got well, or actually if I'd found something else that I could exist in a happier way. So it's a strange one because quite a lot of times when we talk about mental health, I'm a bit like, you've got to be strong, you've got to keep going. Like the world's cruel. It's like you've got to almost kind of be your own champion. And then there's part of me that's like, I don't know. I flip between the two. As long as he's happy. And I always thought the thing with David was that, I mean, he had lungs. Do you know what I mean? It was like,
absolutely.
It was
absolutely.
like, but it's amazing that you found another singer that is amazing in his own way as well.
Yeah, I mean, Jack's fab. He's brilliant, and we are very lucky. I mean, Jack supported us at a show. I can't remember where it was now. A church in London somewhere. I'm really bad, sorry, but yeah, we did like a little Redux acoustic show thing, and Jack came and supported us, and I was like, Christ, he's got an amazing voice, and and just a lovely bloke. And when things happened, we all had a chat about him. All none of us wanted to stop at that point, and we didn't want to just give it up. And it wasn't what it was supposed to be. I don't think that's what Dave wanted either. And so we kind of spoke to a couple of people, friends of ours. Had another friend come down and audition, and then Jack, and then I mean that was it. We was like, that's it. And it's a completely different thing. We didn't want anyone to come in and replicate or try to replicate what was done before. That's not the point. That's not why you're in a band, is it? And it'd be strange to try and do that. And he brings his own force and power and creativity to it, and that's what we wanted, And I think that's the strange thing. I mean, perhaps you'll know better than me, but on the new record, not quite so much. But I think musically, it will always be Own the Brave. That's the thing. It still sounds like us. It's an evolution of us, but that's to be expected as well. We're not the same people that wrote that first record,
Yeah,
So,
I was. I mean, I guess one thing I was thinking was that when I was in a band, we played quite kind of emotional music. I don't want to say emo because it wasn't really emo, but it was like definitely the music we made was very emotional. And I used to come off stage feeling exhausted,
Mm.
and but we were nowhere near a level of where you are, and didn't play with the regularity that you have. Like, is it exhausting playing? Because it's not like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Just it must just be like pretty fucking heavy.
yeah, it can be. I think it
Yeah,
can be. I like it depends on. I mean, when you, it's funny when you match fit, then it's not so bad. I find, but like, if you've been touring a lot, and you get really in, but on an emotional level, yeah. And do you know, we did 2000 Trees. It was probably a couple of years ago now with Jack, and played the Blue the Green, which we've played tens of thousands of times by now, I'm sure. Um, and it was incredible. I cried. I cried on stage, and I made no bones about it. I was like, I've played that song thousands and thousands of times and never had it hit me like that. And I think that
yeah,
was probably a combination of lots of different things. Again, being out as it should be after all of the stuff that everyone's been through, you know, um, and to have everyone there in that tent singing that song back to you at full pelt was just incredible. But you're right, yeah, emotionally draining is the word, 100%. And I think, like you said, it's a weird. There's all this stuff that goes on tour that impacts physical and mental health. It's not a normal way to live. Especially when you have all the other responsibilities of life. And I'm not. It's not a woe me thing. It's just yeah, it can be a very very draining place to be.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, totally. I wonder whether I just wonder whether every band has that though. Like I kind of feel I've definitely met bands over the years that's a bit like, okay, we're off to work now.
Mm.
Whereas it's a bit like, not that your stuff is like free form, but it's like so much bits about like noise and
Yeah.
dynamics, and like the singing is reaching for something, and I just imagine that. I just imagine that is like an emotional weight.
Oh,
I,
100%.
yeah,
100%. I mean, yeah, again, there's points in those songs where I'm not singing, but I'm screaming them because they mean the world to us. And then, yeah, completely, completely.
yeah, yeah. No, totally. The other song I really love is "The Bear," which is the
It's
the closer.
my
Um,
favorite.
yeah, it's really good, man. It's really good. I feel like your band, there's an art to like writing an album closer, but I sort of feel it in a way like a lot of your songs are album closers, even if they're in the middle of the record.
Yeah, we said the same thing, if I'm honest. I
Okay.
mean, and one of the things we were quite keen to do when we started trying to work out the track listing was not to put the bear last because it's
Right,
kind of the obvious choice. But
yeah.
we're like, why are we trying to do that when it's the obvious closer? Yeah, I'm super proud of that song. I think it's one of the best we've written, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good.
Yeah,
That song, "The Ramp," is a bit. It's almost got a bit of a. I don't know. You're gonna hate me when I say this. It's almost got a bit of a sort of post rock thing going on. That's
that
what
doesn't
I'm.
surprise me. It doesn't surprise me.
Is
No,
that
I
is
mean,
that how you see it?
I don't know. Yeah, not probably how I see it, but the post rock was a huge influence on me personally. I mean, I can't speak for everyone. I know Mo is really used to be really into post rock as well, but I just wanted, when we first started the band, that's all I wanted to be, a post rock band with a great singer.
Right,
That's
right.
kind of my take, but that was a long time ago. But
Yeah, it
um,
sort of became something else.
yeah, 100%. It never ends up being what you expect. But no, I don't know the bad thing. It's an interesting one, that track. Strange, isn't it, that little one?
Yeah, I, I mean, it's in what I love Slint. Do you like Slint?
Mhm. I don't really know it, to be honest.
Mate, I'm going to sound like a twat here. Like, I always feel, this happens with my wife all the time. I'll be like, hey, have you heard this? And she'll be like, no. And I'll be like, oh. And the surprise in my voice, she interprets as me being like a knobhead.
Uh,
Almost like me judging her, and it's not at all. But
yeah, yeah.
there's maybe a degree of surprise, right? Because to me, the second record by Slint. It's called Spiderland. For me, it's like the post rock record, right?
Okay.
It's like um, it's produced by Steve Albini. It's got those amazing drums that Albini kind of manages to eke out of his recordings. There's a song I can't totally remember the name of the song, but it's about the singer's dad leaving. But there's sort of this allegory about like a ship at sea. when I was in a band, we used to listen to it in the van all the time. We were, emotional. Like it used to just get me every time. It's just amazing. But
Real.
my wife will be like, that's my recommendation to you, Slint, by the way.
I was actually just writing it down. And to be fair, I'm sure I've heard it. But
Yeah,
yeah, I'm
best album sleeve ever as well.
okay.
Like super iconic. But my wife will always be like, well, I did things other than just listen to records when I was growing up,
Yeah.
And I'm like fair fucks. But that song reminds me a bit of Slint, like kind of better, quote unquote, better produced. It's like the sound is thicker,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
because Slint are very kind of skeletal, the way the music sounds. But it does sort of sound like Lonely the Brave doing the Slint. So you'll have, you'll
Okay.
have, you'll have to send me a message and say whether you agree or what the fuck you want about.
I will absolutely. I will absolutely. It's funny. Yeah, I'll have a listen.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So when do you take these songs out?
We are
Is the
doing,
record out in a couple of weeks? Is it? You said.
yeah, it is. Yeah. So we're going out on tour, doing some in-stores, doing some record stores in November. When I want to say the record comes out on the 11th. I might be wrong. It's
I'll
definitely
check.
November.
I'll
I
check that
don't
when I
know.
record an intro.
Um, good.
Yeah.
Thanks. Um, so yeah, we're doing a little run of shows around that. Doing just some nice in-store bits and pieces, and then we're touring properly in February. Um, Proper venues and full scale go for it. So
What's the
um,
London date?
London, where are we doing? Good question. Bear with me, caller.
Again, I'll check this, or at least I'll direct people towards where tour
I mean,
dates will be.
having to actually check our own tour dates is probably not a good look, is it?
No, it's fine. I interviewed Marielle, like I was saying, who used to be in that band Candy Hearts. I interviewed her the other day, and I wasn't very well. I was a bit kind of delirious, and I said to her, "When's the record out?" And she's like, "Oh, it was out 2 weeks ago." And I was like, "What a knobhead!" Like I think I knew it, but I sort of couldn't access it. But that's really not what the interviewer needs to be saying on tape.
Ah, I don't think it matters. Yeah, so yes, we go out on Friday, 10th of November. So we're doing a disco room in Kingston for that for fun. Um, and then Feb tour starts. Should have had a list of hand, shouldn't I? A list professional. 7th of Feb, Brighton, and then Bristol, Cardiff, doing the garage.
Oh, right, nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. So I'm 43 now, right? And I this I will go to West London. South London is I'm not sure, but like I will go to West London if I have to. But when someone says where they're playing, there's almost like a sort of a it's almost like you could draw it with a compass, like a circle, like a blast radius. And you'll be pleased to know that the garage falls within the blast radius.
Excellent.
Uh,
Glad to hear it.
so yeah, no, I'll come along to that for sure.
Nice. That'd be awesome. I've not been there for ages, actually. I think,
It's just been done out, I think.
has it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. I did go not that long ago. You know the band The Futureheads.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, like old mates of mine from when I lived really far up north, and they did a gig for like the garage's birthday, and I think that was the garage after it had been refitted. In
Okay.
which case, it kind of looks like how you remember the garage.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it,
yeah.
it wasn't miles different, but I did go, but I don't think I've been since then.
I remember playing the upstairs,
Oh
like
right, fame.
back in there with Father Son. Actually, that was one of the first times I heard Father Son.
Oh
Didn't know who they
nice.
were, and they were playing the same night, and yeah, that's how we met them.
It's funny. It's not really the kind of same kind of music, but I interviewed Biss yesterday. Do you know
Hmm.
Biss?
Hmm.
Biss were my favourite band when I was a kid. I was obsessed with Biss. They were the reason I started writing because they did fanzines and they properly. I mean, it's an overused phrase, but they properly changed my life. And they used to play upstairs at the garage. That was like where they played when they came down from Glasgow. And there was a period of time where upstairs at the garage it was like that's where you wanted to play. It
Yeah,
was like
yeah.
not Brixton Academy. Like you wanted to play upstairs at the garage. It was like hallowed turf. Wild, wild. No,
I love it.
I will definitely be there in
Oh, that'd be amazing. Yeah, it'd be good to see
February.
you.
Kingston is outside the blast radius, but
We'll make a note of that for future reference.
no, you've got to do Banquet. You know what I mean? You've got to do these things.
Yeah,
Uh, Listen, Mark, like I say, thanks so much for sending the record over.
no problem
I
at all.
proper had feelings. I almost don't want to. There was part of me that was like, oh, I don't want to kind of talk about what the songs are about, but I don't really, because I just feel like that's peeking too far behind the curtain. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't know what half of them are about from Jack's
well, there
perspective.
is that. There is that.
But I mean, yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? We have that conversation all the time, and I think you're exactly the same as me in that respect. I think yeah, I don't want to know. I know what those songs mean to me. My favorite songs from bands that I have no interest in what it means to them. I know what that song means to me. You know, my interpretation of it, and I guess how I laid myself over that song. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think if
Um,
it's like Dylan or something, then I'm keen to be like, okay, well, what historical conflicts is he referencing here, or
yeah,
what have
yeah.
you? But when it's like, I don't know. I mean, you do know that people have had like really like tender sex to your music, right? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, James, no one has ever said that to me.
I mean,
That's amazing.
that's not an admission on my part. I'd be
Oh,
married.
damn it, come on.
I've been married for a while, but there are definitely people out there that have, held their partner close and looked into their eyes, and Lonely the Brave been playing. I mean, that's like.
If there's some Lonely Brave babies out there, we've won. That's that. We'll take that. Do you know what I mean? Music to conceive by. Yeah, that's
Also, you need to sell some records so you can pay for the therapy for them when they're older as well.
yeah, right. It's a
Listen,
very good point.
listen, Mark. It's been so nice to speak to you, man. I
James, I
will.
could speak to you for hours, mate. Honestly, I really could.
Oh, mate.
No, I mean it. Yeah, you just you're someone I admire from a distance, and I have done for a very long time. And as I follow you, in your comments, and I admire your candidness with
Oh, mate.
the stuff that
Well,
you know. I genuinely mean it. I genuinely mean it, and I find it inspiring. So yeah, to talk to you is lovely. So thank you very much for your time.
thanks, mate. We'll have a beer in February.
Defo.
All right, mate. Take care of yourself. Bye.
Take care, mate.